Morning, all. All right, so this is a news of the day video for your Monday, April the 10th, known as Easter Monday here in Canada. I know that we call it that here. I'm not sure if Easter Monday is viewed anywhere else, and I don't know very many places that are actually closed. And no, it's not a stat holiday. The stat's the Good Friday. Easter Monday's not a stat. All right, so Nathan MacKinnon has been named the first star of the week this week. 4 games, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points for him. Rounding into form at the exact right time of the year if you're an Avs fan, and not at the right time of the year if you're a fan of Dallas, Minnesota, any team they might play in the first round. Really, for Colorado, it has been a remarkable run considering the amount of injuries they've had, and we'll see how they do once playoffs roll around in a week's time. It is a week tonight when the playoffs start. Jordan Everly, four games for him as well for Seattle. 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points to take home the honor of being the second star of the week in the NHL. And yeah, Everly's been very good. For Seattle, they're winning the games and they're putting some pressure on the LA Kings ahead of them. They're only a couple points behind LA going into tonight's games. So yeah, they're not necessarily relegated to a wild card as of yet, but we know they won't be the second wild card. At the very worst, they'll be wild card number one. Alex Lyon, the third star of the week, 3-0 this week with a 959 save percentage. There are some goalies that they do better with more work, and it looks like with Lyon that's the case. The more games he's playing for Florida, the more comfortable he looks, and he's playing tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. So with Bobrovsky on the shelf and Spencer Knight going through the season he's gone through, it's given Lyon a chance to take that starter's reign for now. Again, if Florida ends up clinching themselves a playoff spot, and they could clinch a playoff spot tonight. The Florida Panthers and their fans will have Alex Lyon to thank for a lot of this too. He's provided them with steady, stable goaltending. So yesterday, Boston set a new wins mark with 63, and I've already seen a lot of, well, wait, this isn't as impressive as Montreal's because this isn't as impressive as in others' teams as well. This is the salary cap era, so we can talk about overtime wins, shootout wins, and all of that adds to your win totals. But we also need to consider the salary cap. And you look at some of those great teams like Edmonton in the 80s, Montreal in the 70s, you couldn't put that together because they'd be way over the salary cap. And so that's something you have to consider as well, that some of the super teams that we saw in days of yore just wouldn't exist now. So I don't think it takes anything away from Boston setting a record. I don't think there needs to be any asterisks next to records. There weren't any asterisks next to Gretzky's records when he passed guys who'd played 70 game seasons, when he passed guys who played in eras where there wasn't very much scoring. So, yeah, 63 wins for Boston. Impressive they set that mark. I am aware it doesn't mean anything come playoff time. I'm a Bruins fan. I know what happens when they win the President's Trophy. So, that being said, they have a couple more games where they can add to that 63 wins record. Speaking of team records, more not a league record, but a team record coming back to Colorado here. They set a team record last night with their 10th win in a row on the road, which is bad news for everybody. Really, just the fact that they're playing well while they've got all these injuries. They're playing well on the road. They're playing well at the home. Right now, Colorado does look like they're rounding into that same form they were in last year when they won the Stanley Cup. So I know I'll be taking them in the first round of whatever matchups we have. I would be very surprised if when the brackets are official and we can get them all filled out, I'd be surprised if I don't take Colorado to come out of the West. Just because it does still feel like they're the team to come out of the West. There is a lot of luck that was had by them over the last couple of games, but you know what? You got to be lucky to be good and good to be lucky. One thing that I'm happy about, Toronto did sign Nyes, so that entry-level contract being signed means all of the speculation that it seems to have been following Nyes and when he's going to sign and what he's going to mean and what can he do for Toronto. That's done. He's been signed. Joins the team, and now we'll get to see what Nyes can do for them. You know, the Hobie Baker finalist and all that. For Toronto and their fans, this is a big year. This is one where it feels like it's really wide open that they could take out Tampa. It definitely feels that way. If you look at the numbers right now in the East, I believe if we went with the 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, which is always the argument, I think Toronto's the number 5 seed. They'd be going to New York and playing the Rangers. And yeah, Tampa Bay would be the number 6 seed, and they would be playing against New Jersey. So yeah, that's where we're at. Is that the Tampa Bay Toronto matchup, which looked like they'd be the two best teams in the East that didn't win the division, hasn't really turned out that way. Now, some of that might be taking your foot off the gas because you already know who your matchup's going to be in the first round. Playoffs will tell us a lot. Also, this is the first time since 2008, 2009 that we have had at least 7 first round matchups which are not determined yet. So, Toronto and Tampa, which was determined sometime in November, it really, we don't know who any of their other first round matchups are going to be. And I think that's great. I think it's nice to see this level of parity in the league and that teams aren't just running away with it, minus the Boston Bruins. So, yeah, it will be fun to see who wins every division and how those fights end up. And it means that for these final 40 games of the season, we have 40 games left, that they mean something. And that's all that the NHL can ask for, is that these games mean something this week, right? And for their fans as well. Ryan Strome has been fined for unsportsmanlike conduct last night in the Colorado-Anaheim game. Looks like he was a water bottle thrower. So, yeah, they were definitely an upset team at that penalty being called in overtime. The fans weren't happy either. I saw the comments last night too. And yeah, for the Ducks, I also saw fans last night commenting, why couldn't they have lost in regulation? Sucks we got a point. Because again, it's all about finishing last and getting Bedard, right? And so if you finish last, you have the best chance at drafting first this year. So it looks like everybody for Pittsburgh that's been injured is close. And 2 that are noteworthy here, Bonino's at practice. Kulikov, it sounds like he may return tomorrow for Pittsburgh. They may get other guys back. Look, it's do or die for Pittsburgh right now. They're 1 point below the playoff line. If guys are close and if they're able to play, you might as well, because this is their playoffs. If they don't perform well this week, if they don't get the wins, they will not be in the playoffs this year. So it's going to be an all hands on deck situation for the Pittsburgh Penguins this week in all likelihood. And Bo Horvat. So coming back to yesterday's video on Horvat, and I understood what he was saying, at least how I took it. So again, I'll remind you the quote, it's a lot better than Vancouver. I can tell you that for free. When he was talking about the experience in New York right now and the environment that he's playing in and the excitement. And I get it, but he's kind of walked it back this week. He said it's heat of the moment and it wasn't meant to be towards Vancouver fans or the team. Now, I'm not saying that he's lying here. I think what a lot of it is that over the years, and I can go back to the 90s with players that have left Vancouver and thrown shade at the Vancouver organization when they left. 2 that come to mind off the top of my head, I believe Brashear did, and I know Tikkanen did. And I know it threw me off when Tikkanen did. But it's nothing new. The idea that when a player leaves Vancouver, they throw some shade at the organization, maybe at the city. And it definitely felt that way. And for him to walk it back, it also makes some sense. So if you're of the mind that he was throwing shade at the fans, him walking back the comment and saying, sorry, it was a heat of the moment thing, I didn't mean it towards Vancouver and the team, it was more of a compliment towards the Islanders, I don't think minds are going to be swayed. If you believe that he was talking about Vancouver fans, his statement here won't change that. And I think if you're of the mind that, nah, he didn't mean that, it was no big deal, this will just validate that opinion as well. So he at least got everybody talking yesterday. I knew I had to make a video on that after we did the live stream, and that's what most of the comments were about, were what do you think, what do you think? So I was like, all right, I'll talk about what I think about it. And here we are. So anyways, what do you think? And let me know in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. Again, huge numbers overnight with the channel. The subscriber numbers going crazy lately. Thank you guys so much for that, and I will talk to you again soon.